It's the main man here at Chaotic Hill, and it's time to talk about that art showcase that they've been showing off in Chaotic. If you've been living under a rock and haven't watched everyone else's video, Chaotic showcased some of the art renderings for the new cards. Or not new cards, but they're gonna look a little different to say the least. I'll put a picture up right here. And there's a lot of people who are either we hate this new card art, we're if this is the how it's going, we're not gonna buy Chaotic. Or on the flip side, there's people who are like, we love this card art. You need to get out. We'll find more new fans. But it seems like there's not people in the middle who are like, yeah, it's okay. I like to think I'm in the middle. I understand why people might not like this card art. It is very different. I will give them that, and change always causes big stirs. However, I think there's an aspect people aren't talking about. To me, the card art looks, or the format they're doing these cards in, I should say, looks a lot like how it would look like in the TV show in a drone match. Taking the kayfabe off for a second. Um, you know, it, it looks like when Tom would be like Maxor attacks, Kaor, click click, just that square art, no text, no nothing, just and I'll put a photo up here, and that to me, it makes it more immersive. In a card game, you want the players to feel immersive. That's why we're playing it. For your Pokemon players, you pretend in a way that you're a Pokemon trainer and you're, trying to win a Pokemon match. In Yu-Gi-Oh, you're a duelist, and Magic, you're a planeswalker. Um, in Dragon Ball, you're a Dragon Ball character, and in Chaotic, you're a Chaotic player, and these are your scans. And so, I think that's something no one is talking about. Is to me, it is just as a Mothership Games, as the designers are just trying to make it more immersive for the most part, and I'm fine with that. But I understand why people are hesitant. To me, the only thing that worries me as someone who went to art school and did design classes, I worry about the art's getting congested with your more text heavy cards, especially once we get to things like fluid morphers or pretty much all Marillion cards. But we probably have 2 or 3 years, probably two, until we get to Marillions, because we still have to do, or maybe a year and a half. We still have, Zenith of the Hive, Silent Sands, unless they make that one big set, which I could see them doing. I always felt Dawn of Perrin was very overworld and underworld heavy, and I always wondered why didn't they just combine Silent Sands and Zenith of the Hive to kind of make it quicker. So who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But that's besides the point. But I think the art is fine. I think it's trying to be more immersive as players to get that bigger feeling of immersion. Another aspect I think is they are trying to go for that shiny cardboard collecting community, because I do think these cards will look very beautiful in foil. That full art I think is going to look really sick in a foil. Um, Another card game with a similar kind of uh, card design is the Transformers TCG from back in the day. One of my favorite card games, where it is kind of what we see, except it has a little text box at the bottom. I wouldn't mind that on these cards. I feel like that could be a good compromise. I also saw someone on Reddit kind of post the same thing this morning. Um, who knows? Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I don't know if these cards are already off the printer, if it's too late. I don't think I feel like there's more positive feedback than negative feedback on these cards, which maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I feel like more YouTube comments are anti this, whereas Reddit is more pro this. So who knows what the breakdown is? Maybe I should do a poll. I'll do a poll. And to close the video out, which will be the most divisive take probably, and people are going to get upset, and I might lose a subscriber or two. But the people who are kind of being, oh, the art's different, I'm not going to play the game anymore, if this is how it's going to look, what's the point? I don't understand to an extent. Like, I get, you are entitled to not like the new way. You're entitled to like the old, card designs more. But if you are a real fan, and I think that's the part that's going to get me in trouble is saying real fan, but if you've been a fan since the beginning, like me and other people have, you know, and Chaotic was your first TCG, and you have the fondest memories of it, and you've been wanting to play it for, God knows, for 15 years since it was gone, and now at the I guess it's not a slight inconvenience, but we'll get to why I'm calling it a slight inconvenience. If you're getting peed off about a slight inconvenience that, oh, after 15 years I'm jumping ship, this is done. Even after year of Ganon being, pushing the goalpost back another year, and I hate to say it, but I had given up, for a while that Chaotic was coming back, especially last year when it did get pushed back by another year. But I am happy to say that you know it is full on coming back, and I just don't get people because the card design is different. They're jumping ship. To me, as long as the game is 90% the same gameplay wise as it was originally, there's no excuse. It is still the same game, hopefully, except the card art is different, And that to me is the only like reasonable, oh, I'm jumping ship. As if the game is so different. Like I say, if there's a 90%, it has to be the same. Now I'm sure they're gonna rework some aspects. I know a lot of people didn't like the outperform method. It was very confusing. Fluid morphers was freaking crazy. But we have hopefully a year or two before we get to that point. Um, so if you are a true chaotic fan, this should not bother you as much as oh, I'm quitting the game. I'm never gonna buy the product. The card art has to change. Like, look at most TCGs are kind of following that full art, scheme. Pokemon, the most, meta decks, or I shouldn't say meta, the most popular decks, their basic Pokemon, their stage one Pokemon are gonna have some kind of full art, alt art, you know. Um, Even Yu-Gi-Oh, who has been a staunch defender of their, design, are doing full arts now. Magic has been magicking all over the place with all sorts of things. So I feel like Chaotic cannot stay in the past. It by definition has to evolve into some new card design. As long as the game mechanics are the same, that 90% threshold, I think we are fine. It might be a pill for some people to swallow to get used to the card art, but I think it is a worthwhile pill for this tremendous TCG to come back at a playable tournament global level. Like I said, 15 years, right, is what we've been waiting as a community for this to come back. And I don't want the art to be the reason it fails. And it's not even a change of art. It's not like Takinom is a chibi design now, or Maxor is an AI art. If they used AI art, that would be a whole different conversation. Or if the art style changed completely, that's a different conversation. But just because they're blowing the card up to what I think is to look more immersive, I'm fine with it. And I think I'm not gonna say you should too, because you're entitled to your own opinion. You know, So don't go in the comments and say, "Oh my God, you're only making me choose one or the other." I'm not, but I think the real chaotic fans are going to stay and play. If that game mechanic is 90% the same, because that's the most important part. Does the game still have that feeling of fun? Because if the game's totally different, you alienate the old player base. But there can be some things different. Maybe I'm not going to spitball. That's a video for a different day. But again, if you are a true fan, you're gonna stay. And I'm sorry if you can't handle the art and have to jump ship and go to some other TCG that inevitably will also do the same thing. We'll see you around. We'll see you in the dromes when you come back. But we'll see how this goes. We have 3-4 months till relaunch. things could change completely. Maybe Maxor's going to have a son named Rabbit McRabbit, and he's a rabbit and he hops around, and he's actually the Kothica, but he's actually Tom in disguise. Who knows? But this has been the main man here, giving his 2 cents on this art epidemic that has been sweeping Chaotic for the past 48 hours. And hopefully I made some good points. Thanks for watching, and we don't know what my outro is going to be yet, so we're just going to end it here.